Hi,
Okay.
everybody. I'm Susan Downs, and this is the Silicon Valley Health Institute. We are a nonprofit 501c organization, and our goal is to bring you health information where you have direct access to the experts. We have a monthly Zoom meeting this month, too. During COVID, we had 4 per month, and we just want to get information out to the public. If there's any speakers you want to suggest, please do and put it in the chat or go to our website, svhi.com. I'll put that in later, and you can address us directly. So Craig is going to give his talk, and when you have questions, either put them in the chat or raise your hands, and we will arrange that those questions can be addressed. So how do I introduce Craig Lane? Oh my, he's got so much experience, herbologist, studied shamanism, which interests me. You name it. He's done it, done a lot of work with herbology, and I think he's successfully cured a lot, if I can use the word cured, made a lot of people more on the path toward optimal health. And I find him remarkable. So Craig, I hand the forum over to you.
Wow, I have control now. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I want to take a little bit of a vote. I don't know how it would work out. Maybe we could do a chat vote, but the vote would be, do you want to have an experience of health versus a concept today? Because I have a little embodied exercise I like to do with my groups, because Zoom is what I call the floating head in space energy. You know, we're all this floating head in space. And do you feel your feet at all? I mean, have you thought about your feet today? You thought about your legs, you thought about your body. You know, that's sort of what I call the disembodied helicopter. You know, and so does anybody want, we have like 1,000 yays, and we'll do a little short sequence of 3 things to get you so you can listen more deeply. Because if you're present, you're available like a sponge. And when you're not present, you're not a sponge. You're an iron wall, and information doesn't get soaked in. That's my experience there. Anybody, how do we do that, Susan? Have a vote.
Well, they could just, put an X in the, okay, Richard's up for it. We'll take
Richard's
the
up for an
majority of what
experience.
shows.
An
Richard
experience of
sounds
health.
like
Very
he's up
good.
for anything.
Do you have anybody that doesn't want an experience of health? Maybe we better start
Somebody
there.
put a thumbs up. I assume that's 2.
All right.
Well,
Good.
two out of 2. I guess that's a majority of those that voted. So why don't you start?
All right. So I'm going to go into, when I lead a group, we do what's called off the street check-in. So we come in off the street with our energies of, you know, like Susan was saying, the dog barking, the wife's mad at me, I got too much work to do. I had a man on last week that came in to see me as a new client, and he couldn't be present. So we did some exercises, and then within 20 minutes, he was like, what was I thinking? The problems are still there, but now I'm present with you despite the problems. And I'm just going to do, so my off the street check-in, if we had time, I would let everybody do a little quick check-in, but notice how you feel right now in your mind. You know, it's kind of where we're prevalent. We're used to being in our mind, in our body, maybe even you could say your astral body or soul. So mind, body, emotions. And then just notice how you feel, because after the exercise, you'll have a change. And that's what I've spent that's what I'm going to digress slightly and just tell my quick story. I came to be who I am because I grew up here in the Bay Area, and I got involved with the surfing scene at age 15, and it changed my life. And those men on the call, especially, 21-year-old young man, a lot of testosterone. I love the program Dukes of Hazzard, so I decided to get sideways on the freeway north of Davenport here, going 55 miles an hour without wearing a seatbelt, showing off for my friends, trying to, quote, get sideways and let all that testosterone flow, you know, and I wasn't on any drugs or anything. It was just 7 in the morning going surfing, high on life. And what that led to was I lost control of the vehicle and broke my neck and should have died at age 21. I was on the path to being an architect. It was about 5 lifetimes ago. And I couldn't imagine being where I am now, 36 years later. But what the broken neck led to was a change of my life. It was a change of ownership, a change of occupancy. When I heard the doctor say, you'll never surf again, I got angry. And that anger was the beginning of my learning for self-healing. The doctor's statement, you'll never surf again, is his projection, how he would feel having been in my position. And most people take that on. Yogananda likes to say, Yogananda, the famous guru in India that came over here in the 30s and 40s and 50s, Yogananda liked to say, a weak will take on a strong will. And Star Wars, Luke Skywalker talks about this stuff, even though it's fiction. So I wasn't willing to let his will project onto me. And so my healing began because I wasn't going to take his baloney. For me, that was what I was saying to myself at the time, at a 21-year-old man. It's like, no, I'm responsible for my healing. I'm going to find the path. And that led to yoga, believe it or not. It was the first class back at college because I was in school, changed my bachelor's degree. And then a number of years later, I got back into nutrition. But the point is that moment of I'm responsible, and, it's sort of like middle finger stuff to him because he meant well, but I needed that anger. And so anger in Chinese medicine is part of the wood or the liver element, and it's the second stage of manifestation, of manifesting something. So when we're angry, it's not really an anything other than as a fence emotion, and there's something inside of the anger. Grief, sadness, and fear generally are my three. When I get angry, there's this red flag that goes up and it goes, what's really going on? And then usually I need to cry because I'm terrified of what I'm seeing in the world. I've never felt like I belonged in the world. So that's my intro, sort of backdrop context. And there was at least 1,000 people walking the planet over the last 30 years because I intervened in their health case. I cannot say medical case because I get in trouble. I can't say the word diagnose. I can't say the word treat. I can't say the word prescribe. And yes, if you have questions, I will take periodic breaks to take questions too. So why should you listen to me? Like I was a suspicious guy. I still am. Like, why should I listen to this person? Well, you might want to listen to me because you can go to my website and read the hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of all the health professionals I've helped. And I'm a results-based practitioner. I don't like beliefs. Beliefs get people dead. My first case was in 1996, stage 4 pancreas cancer. And she lived another 20 years, where they usually only live a couple at most. And so I started seeing like magic, and I was into shamanism before I started. And so I see what a lot of people maybe don't see, and that's the chemistry we see, the science we see is a byproduct of the life process. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a life process together. We're actually going to get out of our heads a little bit and get into our bodies, and that might help you absorb a little more. And I know what it's like to be on your guys' side. You got probably 30 people on this Zoom, all these floating Zoom heads, and it can be very overwhelming. So it might be best to focus on ourselves. And so let's start with just, if you're sitting in a chair, please have your feet flat and ask yourself, what do I want to get out of this call? What do I want to get out of this for me? And what's my intention for being here? And maybe we can fulfill it today. So the first thing we'll do is what I call the first exercise, just a gentle, loose wrist. And you tap on your shoulders. And this gets the, quote, weight of the world off the shoulders. I'm sure Susan remembers Charles Atlas holding up this big ball, the weight of the world on his shoulders, right? Remember Charles Atlas before and after, Susan? This guy had, the metaphor was a lot of us are holding on. So then change sides. I have a little thing I do where I put my elbow down like this and tap so I don't have to use the arms. See, I'm a stiff shoulder guy from all the years of surfing. So the ladies and generally the women are more flexible than the men, so they may not have to do this, but it's nice to just not have to use the muscle. And you're just encouraging, it's self-love. You're giving yourself some love, getting the tension moving. I'll talk about why I'm doing this in a minute. Say like 30 or 40 on each side. You can kind of go up the back and get the head gently, just loose wrist. Gentle. You're telling your body to wake up. Hey, wake up. Great. And then take a breath. Just sit and notice for a second, breath or two. And now we're going to squeeze the sponge of all this. And that's an inhale, and you raise your shoulders up and squeeze the muscles in these shoulders, and then exhale, let them fall. You can do it fast, slow. We'll do about 30. So it's inhale, exhale. Exhale, inhale, exhale. And you're inhaling to squeeze the sponge, and exhaling, you're releasing the tension. And you can lean forward, you can go forward roll, and you can go backward roll. So you can go forward and backward and you get in the dam because the fluid in the head won't drain if this is tight and blocked in here. So the fluid in the head backs up, which we call sore throats, earaches, and headaches. A lot of that is fluid pressure in the head that can be alleviated in 5 to 10 minutes. Great. If you get about 30 or 40 of those in, you get moving along there, and then we're getting stagnation moving. Stagnation here, congestion, stagnation. And then the last one is alternate nostril breath. Some of you are not going to be familiar with alternate nostril breath. It's in a yoga breathing pranayama technique. It's very simple. So I'll guide you through the first round, and we'll do a couple more. And so the way it works is you're going to get a hand. I use the shaka. So you have one finger. You can do any way you want to do it, however you want to be able to block your nostrils. And you always start with the right nostril closed, left nostril open. Okay, so we got this going on. You exhale all the air out. Great. We're going to do a 4 count. So it's a 4-part breath. And guess what? There's 4 chambers to the heart. It's kind of fascinating. A 4-part breath, 4 chambers to the heart. Are they related? So inhale is the first part. Then you hold the breath in. Then you exhale. Then you hold the breath out. Inhale, hold in, exhale, hold out. So it's expand, hold in, exhale, contract, hold out. Inspire, expire. That's what those words mean. Inspire means to breathe in. Expire means to breathe out. We don't use these little words anymore. So let's go ahead and start, and it's a 4-second count. I count my heartbeats because I'm about 65 beats a minute. So every heartbeat's about a second. So it's inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the left nostril. Plug the left nostril, hold it in 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Open the right nostril, exhale 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath out, 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right nostril. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plug and hold in 4 count. Open left nostril, exhale 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold breath out 4 count. Now let's go. Now that's 1 round. Let's do another round. Inhale 4 count left. Hold in 4. Exhale 4. Right nostril. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold out 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right nostril. 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold in 4 count. Plug nostril. Exhale 4 count. Left nostril. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale again. Left nostril. 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold in 4 count. Exhale 4 count. Right nostril. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold out 4 count. Inhale right nostril. 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold in 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 4 count. Left nostril. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll stop there. I have a large YouTube channel, and you can go back to that. But generally what this does is this harmonizes the earth suit. The alternate nostril breath is a harmonizing breath. And by tapping and squeezing and moving around, we're stirring up the earth suit container that we call each ourselves. And then we want to harmonize it. And that's what the alternate nostril breath, it's a harmonizing breath. If you're too excited, it lowers it down. If you're too depressed, it brings you up. So that's the basis of my practice, is harmonizing therapies. So we're not doing deep interventions necessarily. And if we do interventions, then we're telling the client, like, hey, we're in an intervention here and there will be side effects. Like when you give someone a blood pressure medication, ideally you're transparent with the side effects of the blood pressure medication and how it builds up in the system. That would be a long half-life. We call that in chemistry. So most medications, they're not dealt with on a daily basis. They build up in the body every single day over many, many years. And that's the problem with medications, is the liver, the kidneys, and the gut lining. They're the ones that suffer from medication use generally. Liver, kidneys, gut lining, gut flora. And so long-term medication use has certain side effects, and there are layers of compensation we're going to go through in this chooser talk today. Okay, anybody have there's a quick chat box thing here. Does anybody have an experience or has had an experience doing any of these yogic breathing exercises or doing yoga, a before and an after feeling of where they might be sitting now and where they were when they came on the call. Share our experiences, and then we can start to see what I call pointers at reality. Because what we've come to study is we've come to worship false idols. And when we worship false idols, we don't live in reality. So the false idol is chemistry and science as it's taught. Chemistry and science is a snapshot of a life process at a moment in time. Just like a photograph is a snapshot of you running a race or you fishing or you whatever you're doing. It's not you. It's a representation of you at a moment in time. So inherently, chemistry is dead. Why are we studying death? I asked myself years ago. I want to study life. So health and medicine, they're studying dead cadavers. They're studying dead molecules that aren't alive. And they think that's going to make people healthy. No, it doesn't. And we see the result of that all around us. Life makes us healthy. So why don't we study plants and healing and how cancer has been cured? And that's the basis of my last 30 years, is the study of who's getting results and why. Who is getting results in health and why? Well, I'm 57 years old with a broken neck, a torn MCL, 2 inguinal hernias, a hiatal hernia, and a torn rotator cuff, and I've never had surgery, and I'm surfing every day. So obviously what I'm doing is working. That's why you might want to listen to me, because I'm vital. I'm here presenting to you as an example of health in a living form, not a number on a piece of paper or a symbol, which is the false idol. Thou shalt not worship false idols. I'm not a Christian. I'm not religious. I'm an old journalist that just looks at everything. And yes, I have done the spiritual thing. I sat with Adyashanti Yogananda. I consider my guru, even though he's dead. And so what that gives me is I can look at Steiner or the Bible or any of these writings and be able to interpret it inside my own being for life. And that's what I wish for all of you. So I have a presentation all worked up here today. I was just starting off with, if you can slow down the suit a little bit and harmonize, then generally we listen and can receive more. So that was the purpose of what I just did. And now we will move on to a screen share, which Susan made me the co-host. There we go. Look at that. There's our meeting. All right, so let's start with this. What are healthy desires? So a healthy desire, as I found out in my life, a healthy desire is a desire that gives me life and makes me more. So if you click this box here, it takes you to a blog that I've written on a study of pathological desires versus healthy desires. You could ask yourself, what is a pathological desire? A pathological desire is like Taco Bell or Burger King. There is no inherent nourishment in that food. As a matter of fact, when we eat that food, we put in 10 units of energy, for example, to digest and process the food, because everything's about energy, but we get back nothing. We don't get back better energy. We don't get back better cells. We don't get back better neurotransmitters. We don't get back better healthy connective tissue, because the food is not usable as it is, because it's more like a plastic than it is like an actual food. And if you haven't seen the Happy Meal from years ago, they put a Happy Meal out and it sat out for, I don't even know, 400 or 500 days and didn't rot, didn't mold, and the insects didn't eat it. Live food, insects go for immediately. Like if I have raw liver sitting out, there's a fly. Usually when I'm processing the raw liver, there's a fly around within minutes. So insects are a good indicator, and mold and rot are both good indicators of life. Unfortunately, we've come to be this germaphobe society, and we fear this stuff, but I have mold. I live in the forest, a lot, and mold all around me. I don't fear mold. I never feared any microbe at all, because I am the master of my life. And that's one of the takeaways is if you're in harmony, there's not much that pathogens can do to you. And if your cells are healthy, which is what we're going to go through. So the number one thing for cell health is the amount of protein and fat and the quality of those in your diet. Your cell membranes aren't made of carbohydrates and they aren't made of cellulose. They're made of fat, protein, and cholesterol. So that's why I tell people, if you're sick, you've got to have raw fats and you got to have raw protein pretty much, because you need the best building materials to rebuild your cell membranes, which are the brain of your cell. So our brain is on the inside of the thing called the skull, but our cells, the brain is on the outside. It's called the cell membrane. And the DNA, the nucleus, is the DNA hard drive, sort of storage bank of all the cell's activities and how to grow new cells. So then a healthy desire is a food desire, we'll say, or a self-care desire that makes you better, makes you stronger, makes you more clear. And that's the key word here, I believe. What is our chooser? There's a word here, I'll go to it first. It's called discernment. Okay, well, let's go back to it later. So, this first foundation of health is so important that I have two elements to it. I have 4 foundations in my health system. There's videos on my website, which you'll see at the end here, healthalchemy.com. So, discernment is the key word here. We want to be discerning versus judging. And when we're in discernment, we just see what is so. And so our choices determine our blood sugar. That's why the chooser also has a physical element, which is blood sugar regulation. So insulin is what I call a primary hormone because it's directly tied into our choices. If we choose a high carbohydrate diet, we are going to have a bigger pancreas that produces more insulin. That may or may not be a bad thing. But insulin is a hormone that tells the body to store stuff in the cells, store blood sugar in the cells, store stuff in the cells. So by its very nature, it's an inflammatory hormone. You don't ever want to have high insulin levels, not ever. And if your insulin's too low, and your blood sugar is still stable, then it means your insulin are like Superman. That's what insulin resistance is. When you have too many of them that don't do their job well. And then you need a lot of them to do the same job that one could do. It's kind of like a really smart genius who did the job of 10 lower IQ people. You know, I hate to say that, but or one elephant could haul along 10 logs, or a smaller animal could haul 1 log. So insulin is a very important primary hormone. The other part that we can see directly from how our blood sugar regulation is our fasting glucose and our hemoglobin A1C. Those are the markers that you can take away. Your 3 most important markers of how well you're choosing your carbohydrates is hemoglobin A1C, fasting insulin, and fasting glucose. And you can get those out of pocket through me. You don't have to go through a doctor to get those. And I could order those for you, or you could order those yourself from a link, and you would know. So the question that very few people ask, I'm going to go off screen share for a second. I'm going to gesticulate on this one, is how is hemoglobin tied in with blood sugar? You know, when I first saw this test a few years ago, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I was like, hemoglobin and blood sugar? Hemoglobin is red blood cells. What does red blood cell have anything to do with sugar? Red blood cell? Glucose? What? So it's the A1C is the important part. Hemoglobin A1C means, to simplify it, it means damaged red blood cells from blood sugar being elevated. That's why you want the percentage low, like 5.1% is my standard. And you go above 5.1%, and that's an average of your blood sugar, they say, over 90 days. So they infer, based on damaged hemoglobin, they infer the blood sugar from that. It's an inference. And so it's quite fascinating. And it's a great marker of, you know, if you have glycation, we talk about advanced glycated end products. AGE. That's the acronym, advanced glycated end products. We're talking about, you know, Parkinson's and all of them, MS and Alzheimer's and dementia. They're called diabetes type 3. Diabetes type 3. And I'm going to show you guys some photographs of people's eyes. I can see this before it's diagnosed on the tongue and in the eyes and in the lab work, generally. That's why people, the value of coming to see me is you're ahead of the game. Before the medical people can spot the disease, we can give you the early warning signals that I was taught over 35 years. So I know the early warning signals, and it's like, why not work on it before it becomes a full-blown, quote, disease? And by the way, the word disease is very poorly used in English. You want to think ease. What do you want with your life? You want ease, right? When you hang out with someone, you want ease. When you go to the movies, you want ease. When you order your food, you want ease. When you drive your car, you want ease. Ease means alignment. Disease starts as soon as we feel a lack of ease in our being. That's the genesis of suffering. As soon as we feel a lack of ease in our being, that's the genesis of disease right there. Dis-ease, unease, dis-ease. And in Ayurveda, they call that deranged vata is the start. They always label vata derangement as a start of imbalance. Same thing. It's internal wind. You want a nice, calm airflow, if you will, thought flow. And when it gets, we all know this, the racing mind, you wake up in the middle of the night, the to-do list, that's vata derangement. It's internal wind in Chinese medicine. So it's the same force in the universe, just labeled differently. Vata, wind, air, imbalance, disease. That's what I'm here to teach, is the natural laws of the universe and the different labels we have for it, okay? Great, so we're looking at blood sugar then. And so how do you keep your blood sugar down? Eat less carbohydrate. If you want to be clearer in your life, I'm gonna put a whiteboard up because this will be, I think I have a whiteboard option. Yes, I do, great. The whiteboard option would be get yourself this app, the Chronometer app. It's an app, and it's also a .com thing. If you don't have a phone you want to use it on, okay? What you want to do is think for yourself, the average person generally does not want more than 250 grams of carbs per day, which is designated CHO. You want about 30 grams of carbs per meal. So if you have 3 meals a day, just think about 90 grams of protein. And then fat can be highly variable depending on your metabolism. Could be as low as maybe 75 grams to all the way up to 250 grams. Of fat per day. Barry Sears years ago wrote a book called The Zone. You want to be in your perfect zone. So that's a takeaway, is start tracking your foods and seeing where you're at, because building awareness is where you get to where you want to go, not hiding from your own bad choices. Chronometer app. There's other apps, by the way, but I like this one because it seems to be the most up to date. And I'll save this whiteboard here. Okay, great. So I don't see any questions up yet. Nope. Okay. About every few minutes, I'll check in. So no questions yet. Anybody? I don't want to race ahead and lose somebody. Okay. Great. Back to the screen share. So our goal today, then, I have the goals set up on here. Somewhere on here. So what we want to do is find out, like, what are we, how do we choose, okay? So what is this chooser thing and what are our takeaways? So our chooser, then, I'll quickly run through these, and if you want to go back to them and pause the recording later, it'd be great. So we have this sort of loop of force in the body, and I'm going to show you one conceptual model. So notice, this is Jack Tipp's work through sclerology, and he developed what's called the toxic stress cycle. And so look at the first element is the digestive system, which, what did I say? Our choices determine, and our choice is what we swallow, see, it goes downstairs. What we swallow goes downstairs here. And so that affects the colon. So these first three are all tied together because the liver receives all the food through the hepatic portal circulation. P-O-R-T-A-L, hepatic or liver, H-E-P-A-T-I-C, hepatic portal circulation. All the fluid from the digestive system and the colon goes back to the liver, except fat. And fat gets absorbed through the lymphatic system. And if you go down to number 6, you see circulation, blood, and lymph. So if your lymph system is clogged up and you have spleen trouble, you are not going to process fat well. That's one takeaway from today's. It's one of my greatest discoveries. If your portal veins are clogged up, you're not going to absorb nutrients well. And if your lymph's clogged up, you're not going to absorb nutrients well. Well, what is the lymphatic system? I didn't plan on doing that part, but what is a lymphatic system? I guess I'm going to go off screen sharing on the whiteboard because it's that important. So the clear? There we go. So the lymphatic system, then you can think of, this is your cell here. And excuse my terrible drawing. That's your cell here. And then it's got a little, do a nucleus and maybe brown or something. There's the nucleus. Terrible artistry. And then the membrane, the membrane here is one layer deep. So let's do that in red. We might have, the cell has to poop. So there's the poop zone. Waste leaves there. Very simplified conceptual model. Please don't hold me to this. And then intake of nutrients, we can put in maybe a light green. And so nutrients have to go in and waste has to go out. So nutrients have to go in and waste has to go out. So there's that membrane thing again. So your cell membrane is sort of stacked like this. It's sort of like you want those tight junctions they hear about in the gut. Your cell membrane has these bilayer, kind of like that. And then so when you're absorbing nutrients, there's these portals that open up in the membrane to let stuff in and out. And so if you have your lymph system then is the toilet for your cells. Let me repeat that. The lymphatic system is the toilet for the cells. Or your cells that have to take in nutrients and have to poop. It's part of life. Everything that eats has to poop, including microbes living in your body. A lot of people don't think about that, but most of the bugs living in your body, aren't that great for you, and they're pooping inflammatory compounds. So I have the secret to all that. That's what we're doing right here. So the lymphatic system is the toilet for your cells. What do you think that the C19 phenomena was? Is involving this. There were nanolipids and all kinds of stuff going on to manipulate this process. And so what I'm looking at then is if your membrane then isn't healthy, again, if this membrane here isn't healthy, guess what the membrane's composed of? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, and nitrogen. David Stewart calls this the chosen ones on the periodic table. Most of our body is made of these 5 elements that he calls the chosen ones. And the cell membrane is made of, if you look at fat is made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in the refined form. Refined carbohydrates are only carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's kind of interesting, pretty simple. So sugar then, refined sugar is only those 3 elements. And that's why refined sugar is nothing like honey or unrefined sugar, because the unrefined sugar in the honey has other elements in here to buffer the acid forming nature of all of these. Carbon becomes hard carbonic acid. Hydrogen becomes hydrochloric acid. Oxygen's a reactive species, so it's not real friendly in one sense. Sulfur runs really hot, sulfuric acid. And nitrogen is the main basis of protein. So it's not really acid or base because we actually use amino acids to regulate pH in our bloodstream and whatnot. And that's not well talked about. So you want that process to be healthy in and out. And if you're not eating the right fats, you're eating bad fats. So there's a spectrum here of saturated fats over here. And then like polyunsaturated fats we'll put way up here with those in green. Let's do it over here. Green over here. Then saturated fats in black on this continuum here. And then the next hardening of it would be waxes, which are sterols. We'll put those in purple. Sterols and waxes And then those become, then there's resins. So resins will put in this toxic light green form. And there's resins. And then the final byproduct is plastic. We'll put that in blue. So plastic is made of the same thing as fat. Is plastic very permeable? No, it's not. So if you want a stupid cells, in other words, a stupid immune system, then keep eating bad fats. Cook your fats, fry the bejesus out of them, do trans fats, do the wrong fats, damage fats, cook the hell out of your protein, well done steak, overcooked eggs, everything cooked. Well, guess what? You're way over here. And no one's talking about that, this membrane stiffening. So I hope that sank in. Any questions there? Great, okay, back to the PowerPoint. So then the to-do list, the takeaway from that then is watch yourself. Like for most of you, the key is to just become aware of what we're doing. And if you can become aware of what you're doing, then it has less power over you. So see this digestive system then here, this toxic stress cycle, the chooser then, see the chooser then is the spine, the brain and the nerves and the endocrine system. So our choosing system involves these three systems at a minimum. Your spine, your brain and nerves, and your endocrine system or your hormone glands. If those aren't healthy, those are the thermostat of your body. You will never be healthy without those three things being healthy, because that determines your choice, which determines your digestion. So when we see someone in poor health, there are ways, see, hierarchy of compensations. So when we don't eat the right food, our colon gets messed up. Then when our colon gets messed up, our liver gets messed up. Then when our liver gets overtaxed, our kidneys get taxed. And if our kidneys get taxed, our lungs get taxed. And if our lung gets taxed, then we can't purify the blood anymore in the lymph. If that happens, and the spleen and the heart get messed up. And if that gets messed up, then you see arthritis. Like, see that muscle soft tissue, it's called arthritis. And then arthritis of the spine is called ankylosing spondylitis. Oh, there's another arthritis there, but it's of the bones. So you really want, you can see how this spins around in most people, and then they get stuck in this unclear, non-discerning place. The last little arrow right there, 11-1, that's the key. So become aware of what you're doing and do that chronometer thing to see exactly what you are doing. Most of us are eating too many carbohydrates. I'll say that very bluntly. And these are the stages we can measure in my practice. Where are they at? Are they in mucus buildup with irritation and or inflammation from infection or from bad choices? The next step is hardening of tissue. We call that calcification. 5, we call that tumors or fibroids or lipomas. They're little packages the body does with toxins. And then everything is pretty much reversible up to stage 5. Past stage 5, it's tough to regenerate tissue. So let's go into a sort of a conceptual model of how we choose and our trauma in our life. This is from my natural law class, where we go into the natural laws of ourselves, of USA Incorporated, as I call it, the game, the word game, the legal game they're playing with us, and also the health, how to be healthy with your earth suit. So our discerning choosers at the center, we're sort of born pretty clean. But we come in pretty clean, they say. And then we have a trauma. Let's say for me, there was a dog that tried to bite me when I was 4 years old. I was a very innocent and sort of inquisitive child. And I walked over to this big old bulldog when I was 4 years old. My family didn't see me do it, of course. And the thing charged at me and knocked me over, and I still have PTSD from it. Like, still have PTSD. So that was never resolved. Why? Because I still feel uncomfortable when I think about it. And then guess what? Then there's a layer of fear when we don't resolve stuff that builds up. And then generally we have a layer of false beliefs about ourselves and the world. My two false beliefs are, I'm not safe in the world and I don't belong in the world. Those are what I call shadow beliefs. Of course I'm not safe. No one's that safe, but get over it. And of course I belong because I'm talking to all of you right now. So it's a facade, it's a false belief. See, there's the facade. And then finally, here's where most of us, that's what I'm asking you to do, is when you become aware of your addictions and your habits that are dysfunctional, you're either going to double down in your delusion or you're going to fix them. I'm the kind of practitioner that I will love you to death, but I'm not going to let you get away with delusional choices. I'm your best friend, but I'm also going to hold you to challenge like I was by my teachers. So the addictions, see, they go away. And then we see our facade. Oh, well, that's kind of uncomfortable. Then our facade peels away and we see our false beliefs. Oh, that's even more uncomfortable. And then we got to feel the fear. Most of us have been helicoptering above our body. And here's the quote: most of us think about feelings and we're not actually feeling. Let me repeat. Most of us are thinking about our feelings and we're not actually feeling. If you think that you are and you're just going to blindly discard what I just said, then you're in trouble. Because an open mind, an open heart, transparency, self-honesty is key. And I don't know any person that's honest that knows about the world that isn't in some kind of fear. Then the fear peels away, and then we see the original trauma. And after 25, 30 years of facilitating people, I can tell you this is a formula, and this is the way it is. Most of us have a trauma from birth to age 8 that shaped our lives. And we've never gotten over it. How do I know that? Why? Because you have dysfunctional decisions. So once that's peeled away and we actually feel that and resolve that, then boom, we're back to the clear discerning chooser. Discernment means neutral. Okay, I think I need to stop. Any questions there? No questions? Taking a quick check-in. Oh, we got a practical question. Richard, thank you. That's a good place. Olive oil versus sunflower oil. Excellent question, because you want to build healthy cell membranes. And so this is part of another talk, but we can briefly go through it because it's very practical. The number one fat in my diet is raw butter. Raw butter is the original health food. So I start with butter, and that's not just a saturated fat. Even beef fat, healthy beef fat is 45% unsaturated fat and only 40% saturated. So don't think for a second that animal fat's bad for you, because that will lead you to destruction. So olive oil, I would rather use olive oil versus sunflower oil, because sunflower oil is a seed oil, and I don't use seed oils because they go rancid very quickly. And sunflower oil is a very high omega-6 oil, which means it's going to cause inflammation. And so the question I would ask you all is, when I go to the hardware store, I see this thing called linseed oil, L-I-N-S-E-E-D. What's linseed oil? It was once a natural thing. In botany, the linum plant, L-I-N-U-M, the linum plant's a well-known common plant, and they extract the oil out of it. And yeah, canola, very good. Canola oil started as a motor oil, that's right, rapeseed oil. It was an industrial plant that was hybridized to produce industrial grade oils. But so linseed oil is rancid flax oil, and it's a varnish you put on your furniture. To let that settle in. When you have stale flax seeds, don't buy pre-ground flax seeds. Don't buy pre-ground chia seeds. Don't buy stale polyunsaturated oils, because they're on their way to becoming a plastic or a varnish. I used to work cooking in restaurants, and there's that grill above the stove and the fryer that gets really gooky. Think gook, and think you don't want gooky cell membranes. So if you're going to have to fry anything, please fry in a saturated fat. Don't fry in olive oil, because it has one bond that can be broken and turned into an oxidative damaging molecule. So I just don't fry with olive oil. I don't fry much at all. Like I'm eating a 3-week cleanse right now, And I'm still eating fat and protein, but it's raw or cooked in bone broth or water. So if you have to cook your food, cook it in water or bone broth, and don't fry it, grill it, dry heat. That's how you damage food, is fry, grill, dry heat, barbecue. I love all that stuff too, believe me. I'm a professional chef, actually. Like, if anybody wants a catered event, call me up. That's my specialty, is catered dinner events with a class attached. And I've been that for 35 years. One of my favorite things to do. No more questions on that? Good. So discernment is key. So the key word here is mouth entertainment. We're a society that has been programmed and addicted to mouth entertainment. We need to reprogram our taste buds. And I've seen it happen in 3 to 7 days. I had a restaurant in the 90s called Natural Flavors. Notice the name, Natural Flavors. Most of us are used to pathological, chemical-based flavors. And that's what MSG is. MSG is a chemical flavor enhancer that causes nerve damage. Russell Blaylock, Excitotoxins, has got a great book on that. Russell Blaylock, bless his heart, Excitotoxins. He talks bluntly about some of these molecules. This is Bernard Jensen here, a quote. And most of us aren't. They're addicted to mouth entertainment like a lab rat, eating themselves to death, and they don't regard poor health as seriously as they should. But I will tell you, as a man that's been in poor health, that if you don't have health, you have nothing. If you don't have health, you don't have anything. So to me, there was a famous Zen monk, Suzuki Roshi, who founded the Tassajara Zen Center, and his life story is available on a book called Crooked Cucumber. And his biography very clearly states this one quote that I've lived by for 30 years. And that quote is, the most important thing is to know the most important thing. I'll repeat that quote. The most important thing is to know the most important thing, which means you better choose well. That's the most important thing. All right, let's go back to the top here. Go a little journey. So I just loved Homer Simpson, but here's kind of what I'm seeing in humanity here, especially this this slide here with the, see, we're kind of in this right here, right? Humans may have evolved, but there's more involved than just what we think. And so plants are the key. Plants have blood just like ours. Chlorophyll and hemoglobin are identical except for 1 or 2 things. Wait, what did he say? That's right. Plant blood and human blood are identical. So if you want to build healthy blood, eat red meat and a good animal protein and have green juices and plants, and you'll be good to go. And you also need to be typed. And so there's a typing system to help you determine how much protein and what type you should eat, how much fat and what type you should eat, and the amount of carbohydrate in your diet. So we are always becoming something else. We're always changing, and we're always in action or process, even when we're at rest. When you recognize that, then life becomes a little bit easier. So how do you choose? See what I talked about earlier, our neuroendocrine psychology. How do we interface with the world? How do we interface with our choices? How do we interface? So one of the things I use when somebody asks me, like, how do you not make bad choices? And I say, I have future, Craig, veto. So if I'm going to make a choice to stay up late and, have a glass of something I probably shouldn't have, then I check in with morning Craig. So night Craig moves out to morning Craig and says, hey, morning Craig, what do you think? You want to wake up all screwed up, or you want to, you want to let me do this now? And so future Craig can veto. So generically I call it future self veto. And it's aligning my past, present, and future. How do we know we haven't made a good choice? Go off whiteboard for this one. How do we know we haven't made a good choice? It's an old Taoist pointer. Enlightened action leaves no trace. Enlightened action leaves no trace. Now, I spent 35 minutes talking about this with Ajay Shanti a decade ago at Inner Light here in Santa Cruz. 35 minutes talking about this. Enlightened action leaves no trace. What is the trace? Anybody pick a guess? What is the trace of unenlightened action? Yeah, thanks for that. How to handle evening and nighttime food cravings. We'll go. That's a great question. Thank you. So what are the two traces? Anybody? All right, nobody wants to take a shot. The two traces are regret and doubt. If you're walking around with recycling regret from something you did and recycling doubt, that's the trace and that's the work internally. And you know what the work is? Sit down, shut up, sit in a chair, and sit with it for a half hour. It's literally that simple. Get out of your head and feel it. That's why I do silent meditations every day. It's why I do yoga every day, because it clears out all the bullshit. And then I get clear and discerning about what's really going on with me. So when regret and doubt are in my world, it means you haven't done your choice maker correctly. So that's past, present, future aligned. Future self veto, future self says no, then I don't have regret in the morning. Because my morning guy used to hate night guy. Can some of you relate? Your morning person hates your night person. You wake up in the morning and, oh, I just feel rotten. And I look at night guy and I'm like, well, he had a party, man. There's too many parties at night, not enough of me in the morning. Because I like my morning and I like the sunrise and check out the birds and the trees and the creeks. And then that guy at night staying up late and he's screwing over my morning. Can some of you relate? Like nighttime food cravings. Anjali. So Anjali, what you do with your nighttime food cravings is the first thing is like check in with your morning person. Morning future self veto. And just check in, because guess what? At night and on a full moon, parasite activity is greater. Let me repeat that. At night and on the full moon, parasites are more active. So if you have evening food cravings, that's a great segue into the next screen share. So I'm still going to answer your question on the practical part of it, but I'm just kind of giving you a background here. So there's another piece I'm going to show you guys now. There's a perfect segue over there. Nope. Okay. So we kind of didn't go through this earlier, but I want to get on the recording as see our food choices helps our chooser decide, our nerves and endocrine system, and our clarity. So, who is this chooser thingy, right? And how we choose. Okay. External influences. There we go. So a lot of us are making decisions based on external influences. In other words, what would Sammy Joe say if I said that? What would so-and-so say if I ate a raw liver? What would so-and-so say if I went vegan and the rest of my family is a meat eater? It doesn't matter. I don't hold on to any dogma or ideology with health. I try to find what's best for each person, but definitely animal protein is part of it. That's part of my 30-year report to everybody is if you want to heal cancer, especially the cancer healing formula is raw liver, coffee enemas, and raw green juices. That's the old Gershon. That's the basis of the old Gershon protocol. So raw protein, unfortunately, that goes against, I hate raw liver. I hate raw meat, but I could see, and here's how you know you've chosen well versus doubt and regret and feeling rotten. You know you've chosen well because you feel awesome after you eat. I'm going to go into a whiteboard for that. You know you've chosen well because an hour later, you have more energy after eating. That's the sign. You know, in finance, there's the ROI, return on investment. Well, yeah, midnight oil fighting there. Yeah, good job, Keith. So we want to understand that, you know, this causal loop, right? And so it's really important. I mean, that's why I keep coming back. And if anybody has a question, I can look at the comments. Is just this is an engaged discussion, an exploration. Everything in my world is a SEEMS, seems. It seems this way. That's all we can say. Most of my Oriental medical teachers and macrobiotic teachers 20, 30 years ago, the quotes were, Western medicine, I can sum it up in one word, arrogance. I can sum up Western medicine in one word. This is what my masters told me, arrogance. So it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, I'll go figure it out for you. It's okay to be a detective in health and not know what to do with a client. As a matter of fact, when a client comes in with me, all I have is what I have behind me. It's an empty slate and a question mark. I'm not going to throw you into a raw food protocol if it doesn't work. I'm not going to throw you into a heavy meat eater paleo protocol like Jordan Peterson was doing. You know, you want to hear about something that works, go watch Jordan Peterson and his all meat diet. It's not a lifelong diet. It's a temporary diet to heal his autoimmune situation. And a lot of people have done it. I had a guy with leukemia and he didn't start feeling better after years of experimenting until he ate mostly meat because he's a protein type. A carbohydrate type that has equatorial ancestors and a blood type A, they won't be able to do that. They just don't have the digestive apparatus. So each of us has a unique diet that we aren't even aware of. And to help your chooser, we have allergy tools. And I have those. A physician in the 70s, Dr. Arthur Coca, COCA, has an allergy pulse testing system. So if you have a food, this is back to the post-meal energy thing. If you have a food that keeps showing up, like if your baseline pulse is 70 beats a minute, and you keep putting like a lentil in your mouth or eating lentils and you feel rotten afterwards and your pulse goes way up or way down, and you know you have an intolerance on your hand and it's a kryptonite for you. You're putting in 10 units of energy and getting back 5. Well, if you're a finance person, you're going to get kicked out of the stock market because you're putting in 10 and getting back 5. You're losing 5 on every transaction. That's where most Americans are. And you can monitor it by, if you don't have more energy an hour after you're done eating, the meal didn't work. Let me repeat. If you don't have more energy an hour after eating, the meal didn't work. How do you know? Because you have less energy. The less energy is the indication that you're not getting back enough from what you're putting in for inputs. Return on investment, we call that in finance. So in some of my experiments, my carbohydrate addict died. And I'm a protein type. I'm pretty much a pure protein type. So my carbohydrate ration, if you will, is about 150 grams a day maximum, which is 600 calories. That's nothing. I'd have 150 grams of carbohydrate at one sitting when I was younger. I have 500 grams of carbohydrate, 2,000 calories, no problem when I was younger. And I wondered why I kept getting sick and blood sugar problems and all this stuff, candida, fungus. I was like, oh, I'm eating too many carbohydrates. And then I was always tired after I ate. It was like a joke. I would just take a nap after every meal. So I know a lot of you can relate. So what happened for me is I started experimenting with my model. And then much to my chagrin, 2 years ago, I lead a weekly community dinner. So there'll be one going on tonight from 6 to 8. There'll be a Zoom link for that. And I give a public discussion. So I'm leading the cleanse. And so, yeah, this guy brought a bowl of raw chicken livers and he had this little bowl, you know, and it was just sitting there. He didn't do anything to him. He just bought the 16-ounce thing, threw it out on the table. And yeah, we were all sitting there going, really? just a raw, unprocessed little chicken liver. I was just so disgusted. But I've done this before, pinch my nose and shove a few in like an oyster and swallow them. And then I wanted to do the experiment to see how I felt. So I was giving the talk and then I forgot about it. And an hour later, these waves of well-being were coming through me. These waves of like, wow, I feel fantastic, almost kind of manic. I generally feel manic when I'm leading a talk anyway, but it was different. And then I realized this little addicted guy kind of connected with the reality. And he's like, oh no, I feel awesome eating that raw liver. And so I've been eating raw liver since. I chop it up and I put it in a jar, kind of like this, little tiny pieces, and I marinate it in my recipe favorite, teriyaki. Remember, I'm a professional chef, so I have a recipe and a menu document on my website that anybody can download. So my teriyaki is a good marinade for liver. Mustard and soy sauce is a good simple. One of my people does the liquid whey. They separate out the yogurt into whey and curd, and they soak the liver in the whey. There's a raw milk soak. You soak the liver in raw milk, and it takes out the bad flavor, apparently. So there's a lot of options to marinate the liver. The simple would be like lemon juice and salt. Very simple one there. And so you just find a way to, the marinade helps the meat because it kills the parasites a bit and breaks down the proteins to simple proteins. So to me, it's like, prescription without using that word, very loosely. It's like, yeah, raw liver. So today I'm going to have raw salmon and raw liver and a soup cooked in bone broth. Great. Richard put a nice little link in there about the TED Talk on the all meat diet, what it did for her. Just like the vegan diet, for a lot of people, is not a permanent diet. Dr. Natasha of the GAPS book was asked about it at the Weston Price Conference, must have been a decade ago here in Santa Clara. And I remember her saying, yeah, it's the best temporary cleansing diet on the planet. And for a protein type, that's correct. For a carbohydrate type living in the tropics in Ecuador, it's the right diet because the solar energy is giving them energy. But in the northern and southern climates closer to the poles, there's not as much solar energy part of the year. And you have to develop that energy from the inside, which is fat and protein, unfortunately. If you live in Alaska and look at the history like Weston Price did, Alaskan Eskimos were not eating brown rice. They were eating fat and protein. That's the evidence that we've ignored and been brainwashed out of. If you're a blood type O and you have either close to the pole ancestry, you're not going to be doing well with carbohydrates. If you have ancestors that live closer to the equator in a hotter climate, then you're going to do better with carbohydrates in general. A little practical piece there. So Jordan Peterson may be more of your blood type also. Blood type A's make less stomach acid. We know that much. Blood type O's make more stomach acid. B's and AB's, they're more current mutations of the human genome, according to the blood type dude Diadamo. So, okay. So B's are generally meat eaters and AB's are very adaptable, I found. Not very many AB's around, but they are around. All right, questions? Let's go to the screen share back. So how do we choose? See, and so what I'm going to scare you with here is something that mortified me years ago. Is eating behavior manipulated by gastrointestinal microbes? Oh no. You mean to tell me that my gut bugs are determining my cravings? I found this out 25 years ago, sitting on the couch, denying my gut bugs their Super Bowl Sunday carbohydrate load. And I had 11 hours of sleep that night. And I passed out for 3 hours and I woke up and it felt like an elephant had trampled all over me because I didn't give in to the craving. And then I had this horrendous sort of arising in me that said to ask your gut if it punished you. And I asked my gut bugs, did you just punish me for not giving you carbohydrates? And I got an emphatic yes. You were being punished for not giving us what we want. And this is an abstract from a mainstream study, folks. This ain't no woo-woo shit. Microbes in the gut are under selective pressure to manipulate host eating behavior to increase their fitness, sometimes at the expense of host fitness. Oh my God. So my arising 25 years ago, I felt so validated when I saw this a few years ago. That when we have pathological cravings, this is the autistic child. I gotta go off this because this is so important. Autism is this. If you read the Gut and Psychology Syndrome book, Dr. Natasha very clearly points it out that the Clostridia species that lives in these autistic children and other microbes, they eat wheat and dairy, and their excrement is an opioid. Casein and milk protein becomes caseomorphin. Gluten becomes gluteomorphin. The bug eats it, has a big party, and poops out the opioid, which is the reward for the child or the autistic person or the person that has a carbohydrate addiction. When you deny them their white bread, macaroni and cheese, pizza, the wheat and dairy combos with the sugar, I have been kicked. I've seen 100 autistic kids cured by the mother, by the family that said, you know what, to the medical system. So if anybody's an expert in autism, I'm close, but there's other people in the Bay Area that would be better, that have written about it and done more clinical work with it. But I have my own set of, and so you want to realize, like, if you're having night cravings, especially on the full moon, then you got to get those bugs in order and you got to start some antimicrobial treatments. And I know the steps for that, because you don't want to do it too fast, nor do you want to do it in the wrong order, because then, you're going to be dealing with dead bugs in your lymphatic system. Got some questions here. Oh my God, thank you. Yes, Susan. So Susan has a link here to Dr. Natasha. And okay, Catherine Reed. Oh my God, thank you, Susan. Susan wrote a peer-reviewed article on autism. Excellent, great. See, so we got a bunch of us working together on this. Like, no, you medical people, no. You don't know what you're doing. Unfortunately, they don't, because they're brainwashed, but not all of them. All right. See, microbes may do this by two strategies: generate cravings. And what's dysphoria? Dysphoria is disease. Not feeling good in your own body. Induce not feeling good in your own body. I got an autistic kid right now. I got to go off the screen share again. I got an autistic kid right now over in Santa Clara that he tried to stab the brother. He tried to beat up the father, and the whole family's terrified of him. So who do they bring in? Craig. So safety was a big issue, right? The whole family didn't feel safe with the kid. He was in his room. So I disarmed the situation by literally giving the father a baseball bat, the brother a baseball bat, and me a baseball bat. And we stood in front of his door and we said, "You're going to talk now." And he was, there was nothing he could do, because we had, all three of us had baseball bats. And now the family's back together because the father finally got vulnerable and shared his errors in his raising of his son. The older brother got vulnerable and shared and cried in front of him. And then the kid had he opened up. The autistic Jekyll and Hyde opened, and this other child who was vaccinated at age 3, and quote from the mother, "I had a loving, beautiful child, and I watched him change minutes and hours after that injection into a monster," end quote. And the doctors kept gaslighting her. "Oh, no, it wasn't the injection." And I'm gaslighting a mother. I mean, I would have been like, I'm a doctor, like, noogie, like, shut up. I saw it happen. Don't tell me that it wasn't because of the jab. I saw it happen. All right, good. So autism is not something that's to be feared. Neither is autoimmune in my world. Autoimmune is very simple. You're not eating the right kind of foods. So this study goes on. You can get access to this if you ask. See, there's just a lot of information here. Look at this one. Microbial genes outnumber human genes by 100 to 1 in the biome. We're mostly bugs, folks. You are the captain of the bug ship, because you're mostly bugs in that Earth suit there. Welcome, Captain of Earth ship. I'm Captain Craig of my bug ship. And Captain Anjali, Captain Hannah, Captain Susan Downs were the captain of a ship of cells and bugs. Wow. So there's different mechanisms. I'm not going to go into all of this here. This is on a slide, so we'll go to that right now. This sort of how we choose. We'll get rid of that now. Great. So there's a slide for this that we'll go to that seems relevant now. There it is. The anatomy of the chooser. I think that's fairly clear. Good. See, cravings are ours or something else. So see, toxins, vagus nerve control. So there's 12 nerves in the head or the cranium, and only one leaves the brain or the head zone and goes down into the gut. And that's the vagus nerve. And it goes along the side of the head that kind of parallels the gallbladder channel a little bit. So if you know anything about Chinese medicine, the gallbladder pulse will sometimes tell me how overwhelmed their vagal system is. There's other ways to do that, but that's one of the things I took away. And then see reward over here on the right. The bugs get what they want, and you get dopamine and serotonin rush. Microbes have genes for human transmitters. Enteric receptors respond to bacteria. Vagus nerve interruption leads to weight loss. So you see there's the controller is up here pulling the strings, negative mood induced by toxins, taste receptors altered, microbes related toxins in absence of the things they want. Microbes alter cannabinoid and opioid receptors. Oh, so I believe some people, when they do cannabis, they need it because their cannabinoid receptors aren't working well. So there's the anatomy of the chooser. We've gone through most of these now. Oh, yeah. So this mouth entertainment thing, it's really important to realize that eating is fine and shame, blame, guilt is not okay. So if you eat the chocolate or you eat something that you maybe shouldn't eat, the Cinnabon or whatever, it's important you don't shame yourself afterwards or while you're doing it, that you enjoy it and don't shame yourself at all. If you're indulging in mouth entertainment, then please enjoy it. It's okay to enjoy food, but don't live to eat. Eat to live. So when the practical part is make a different choice every week. You know, for me, it was adding a new vegetable every week when I was a young man, 30 plus years ago, like a cooked rutabaga. Oh my God, disgusting. Dandelions, disgusting. Arugula, disgusting, bitter. Carrot greens, putrid. You know, so it took a lot of years for me to get on the veggie program. And I'm glad I did now because I was able to live a healthier life. Went over that. So this is another important piece is we have means in my world to show you guys where this is at, and we're going to go there now. So I have a client that I just saw, and where am I at in this stages of congestion zone? Where am I at there in various parts of my body? Well, now I'm going to show you. So in my assessment system, first place we start is the tongue. So this was this man's tongue about 3 years ago when he came in. He wasn't quite ready. And this was his report of my findings. So not a bad looking tongue. The coat's a little thick, which means what feeds on a bad coat? Microbes love to eat rot. So if you have a microbial problem, you are rotting from the inside out. Dr. Natasha actually went over that in the last Weston Price a decade ago. Someone asked her about salmonella, and she's very quickly straightened the person out and said, stop blaming the bugs for your own bad decisions and rot inside you. Stop blaming the bugs for your own internal rot which is actually attracting the fungus to you and the bad bugs. Because what is fungus's job in nature? Fungus's natural job in nature is to eat rotting matter. If you don't believe me, go out into the forest and you'll see the turkey tails eating the dead trees. Funguses, so you don't play victim, you get off the triangle of victim, hero, perpetrator, and you take responsibility of that. I'm rotting from the inside out. That's why I need deodorants. That's why I need to shower 5 times a day. That's why my breath stinks and my feet stink. I'm rotting from the inside out. There's no other way to put it. I'm sorry. My goal personally is if I can get away with only showering once a week, I'm doing really good. I'm not joking. In the winter, I might only shower once a week and you won't even notice because I'm not rotting from the inside out. That's the solution to underarm odor, foot odor, pelvic odor, bad breath, all of it. You can see it on the tongue. A big thick coat, you got problems. So this one's not too bad. And then the chooser comes in right here on the tip. So all of you can look on the, if you take a picture of your tongue or look in the mirror, if this tip area is redder than the rest of the tongue, then your nerves are running hot and the heart mind. This is Chinese medical stuff, traditional Chinese medicine. So if this red area in the front here, this guy has a little bit of, mine's always bright red. So my nerves are always running hot. And the Chinese call this heat toxin. There's more to it than that, but. So then we have a more recent photo of the guy. So this was 3 years ago, and here's generally not a bad looking tongue, but notice the tip. See that tip area, the front, some red area that's not, you don't see on the rest of the tongue. Like a lot of people, he's running a hot nervous system, a hot heart mind. And there's reasons for that I can't go into here, but if you want to read some Rudolf Steiner and some alchemy stuff, then you'll get a little bit ahead of the game on this. So this guy's not too bad. He's not a lot of cracks in his tongue. There's this red thing on the front though. So watch the coat on your tongue, watch the size of your tongue, and watch this tip. And that's kind of the practical advice is look at your tongue every morning. If it starts getting really pale and a big thick coat, then take action. That's mucus building up. Your chooser's making bad choices. Then there's the brain zone of the eye. So this is the sclera, the work I do. And this man, this was his report 3 years ago. So the more lines there are in the eyes, the white area here you see in the middle is from the flash, so we don't get to see that really well. But in the newer one, we do. So notice all these red lines indicate imbalances in the body. And the type of the line, see there's a squiggly line there, that's congestion in the thyroid. See the set of lines over here on the right side, that's the rear brain being poisoned and new tissue isn't being made well because there's so many lines. And see the branches of a tree? One line is okay, it's just a simple stress, but there's damage lines, congestion lines, EMF, nerve damage lines, which is a form of radiation. So this guy's got it all. And so this is 3 years earlier here, not much change because guess what? He drinks every night and has coffee every morning. So that's why the man hasn't gotten anywhere in 3 years and he's going in for hip replacement surgery. And so his chooser, he was told a lot of baloney. You know, the medical people have the emotional sale. You know, the emotional sale. Our government does it. Retail people, salespeople do it. The emotional sale is what medicine feeds you. Oh, we got a few more questions. Great. Geographic tongue, very good. So geographic tongue, I call hamburger helper tongue. So the cells of your tongue are made of the same tissue all the way down to your anus. There are skin cells. Same cells here, same cells here, same cells line the lungs, same cells line the bladder, same cells line the prostate, same cells line the uterus. They're called epithelial tissue. So if you have geographic tongue, you have an ulcerated gut. Let me repeat. If you have geographic tongue, it's the same way all the way down. Same way. Same thing, all the way down to the anus. That's why we look at the tongue. If I have cracks in my tongue, I got to go to work. How do you rebuild the gut lining? Vitamin C rich foods, not ascorbic acid crap, vitamin C from fresh plants out of the earth, and protein. That's how you rebuild the gut lining. And the only way you rebuild the gut lining. Comfrey is great. L-glutamine, I have mixed results with that. The 5 grams a day, they say. I haven't seen consistent results with that. Comfrey, I have. Chlorophyll pearls and standard process, I have. Okra pepsin E3 from standard process, I have. And then when a physician writes a book about colitis in 1952, Philip Norman, and you never see the book, you should wonder. And that's what he points out, that an ulcerative colitis case is a 2 to 5 year process because they have a broken chooser. He doesn't say it like that, but their choice maker is broken. And colitis is a colon thing, and the colon is where we take in and let go, metaphorically. Take in and let go. So my colitis ladies have a lot of grief they're processing. They haven't let go of. Just generally the factor. So if you want to rebuild this, you do raw protein ideally, and you do bioflavonoid rich vitamin C. So like your berries, your dark fruits, greens, anything fresh out of the earth is going to have the most vitamin C. Because vitamin C is tied to ascorbic acid in the bullshit medical system and the RDAs, but that's not what vitamin C is. Susan knows because she went to my talk, vitamin D3 isn't your sunlight vitamin. It's your sunlight filter sunglasses vitamin. Vitamin A is your fat soluble sunlight vitamin. Vitamin C is made from, the ascorbic acid part is made from carbon dioxide in the air and water. Literally the plant is taking CO2 and water and making vitamin C from it. Ascorbic acid part. What did he just say? They're like magicians. I'll take CO2 out of the air. I'll take water in my cells here. I'm going to make sugar because that's all sugar is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's right. It's like C6H16O8. You know, I got it wrong, but it's something like that. And guess what ascorbic acid is? It's one enzyme removed from pure glucose. So when you buy your ascorbic acid bologna out there that I never use except for in certain short-term situations, then guess what? You can get GMO corn syrup from GMO corn syrup, whatever, and you can add this enzyme to it and convert it to ascorbic acid. Cheap, effective for the chemical makers. Just like the B vitamins are coal mining waste leftovers. I'm not joking, folks, and I'll show you the data. B vitamins in the health food store, 99 out of 100 were made from coal mining waste as a starter material. When you see USP on the label of a natural vitamin bottle, USP means United States Pharmacopoeia. Pfizer and Merck are making your health food vitamins from Claire and Biotics. And that's why I use standard process and food-based vitamins as a day-to-day thing. And yes, the nutraceutical synthetic vitamins, they're fine, let's use them, but let's use them in the right context, short-term only. Short-term only. What does yellowing of the eyes indicate? Okay, white tongue, we got white tongue. Great. White tongue question and yellowing of the eyes. Okay. So a white coat, then let's go back to that guy for a second. I don't think I got rid of him yet. Oh, very good. So there's different colors of tongue coats. And so if you see a white coat, that's called damp cold. That's what we study is life process. If it's a yellow, brown, green, black coat, that's damp heat. Now here your acupuncture, I know I have the skills of an acupuncturist, so I can talk to any of your acupuncture, your doctors and meet them. So damp heat and damp cold. So a white tongue means you're going to need ginger and garlic and warming herbs. If you have a yellow tongue coat, it means you need echinacea and golden seal and cooling bitter herbs. Never, ever self-prescribe, please. Oh, I got cold and I did echinacea. But your cold is from damp cold. And those are cold herbs. You need warming herbs like ginger and garlic and mustard. Oh, I didn't know that, Craig. That's right, because we're not taught that, but I am teaching that. So hot and cold is a primary duality, and wet and dry. So in Chinese medicine, This is more advanced stuff, but since you asked about the white tongue and the yellow eye, let's go there for a second. Off the screen share here. Some of the primal dualities that we work with. So this is my master manual for my students. It's called the 4 Foundations of Health Manual. It's only 144 pages at this point. But we'll look at this, this process thing. Here we go. No. Yin yang. There we go. Balance. Okay, so see, duality then is in Chinese medicine, yin and yang don't mean anything. Just think duality. What has a top must have a bottom. What has an inside must have an outside. What's the opposite of hot? Cold. What's the opposite of wet? Dry. That's all they're saying here. So still and moving, space and time, hot and cold. See, it's heavy and light, night and day. All yin and yang means are the primal dualities of the world. Don't get stuck in absolutes. So what I've done then is I have a series of notes here, like here's the signs of heat in the body, things you can measure. Signs of heat. Signs of when your fluids are low, we call fluid deficient heat. Signs of cold. Signs of adrenal exhaustion cold. Signs of dry, signs of damp. Signs of stuff that's chronic or on the interior. I love this quote from St. Matthew. The eyes are like a lamp for the whole body. If your eyes are sound, and your whole body will be full of light. The eyes are the windows to the soul. Signs of exterior or acute problems. Signs of wind problems. Signs of lack of wind. Okay. So then a yellow sclera then generally is a form of jaundice. When you see that yellow in the white of the eye, it means you're not converting carotene to vitamin A. Oh, wait a minute. What is he saying? Beta carotene in the carotenoids is not vitamin A. It's pre-vitamin A because they're water soluble. They must be converted to a fat soluble vitamin called retinol, R-E-T-I-N-O-L. And that's your true sunlight vitamin. And if you want to cure anemia, not a low red blood cell count, where the red blood cell count's normal, but the hemoglobin and hematocrit's low, you cure that with vitamin A rich foods. That's the old data that Morley Robbins of the Root Cause Protocol has laid out for us. Goes back about 80, 90 years where all the brainwash started. Believe me, from 1890 to about 1930, there was a lot of bad stuff going down in this country. I know because I've researched it. It's horrendous and hideous. So this was all this stuff was hidden from us, folks. Great. Any more questions? No question? All right. So let's just go a quick summary here before I move on to the next thing. So chronometer helps you build some awareness. So the first step is actually just tracking what you're doing and being aware, like, okay, when I eat that chocolate bar, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? When I have my 6-pack of beers after work, what am I thinking and feeling? When I'm having my morning coffee that most people should not have every day, what am I thinking and feeling? When I'm having my my 5 slices of sourdough bread with my spaghetti, what am I thinking? And so you do that by chewing your food longer. So the next practical aspect is chew your food 50 chews per mouthful. 5, 0. I worked in cancer therapy, folks, with macrobiotic people, and that was how they were curing cancer. Was if you had cancer, when I studied with them in the 90s, you had to chew each bite 300 times. Oh my God. What's the average American chew rate? 5 or 10 chews per mouthful. Barely 5 or 10. It's almost like a vacuum cleaner for some people. So chewing more will get you better digestion. Guaranteed. I know because I was the fastest eater 30 years ago. I prided myself on getting done fast so I get to dessert before my brother. You know that one? I want to finish food fast. And Carol, yes, I do work with people long distance. I have a great, do the Zoom thing. and we can do lab work and photographs. So that works really well, long distance, a lot of clients on Zoom. So we're coming back to just loving ourselves in our broken, traumatized state. If you're on this call with me, no one comes to see me that isn't in what I call the empath family. So if you're on this call with me, you're suspect of being one of the woo-woo empaths walking the planet. Why? Because you're on the call with me. And we're here to bring in what's missing in health in the world, and that's the bridge between the hard sciences and the woo. I'm a bridge person. Here, I'm going to explain heat in terms of what heat looks like in your lab work. I'm going to explain what dryness looks like in your lab work. I'm going to explain what degeneration looks like in your lab work. I'm going to explain what healing looks like. Most medical people cannot do that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of great, bright minds in the doctor world, but they haven't been taught how to look at life. They've been taught how to look at dead stuff and how they're all separated. But very few medical professionals work with what's the living template? Like in common law, you're the living man and woman. The word person should be a certain red flag to all of us. The word person means slave under USA Incorporated. That's why they're trying to eliminate man and woman. They want to make you a person, and then you are patented by your social security number in the USA Corporation. The USA is actually a corporation posing as a government, providing government services since 1871. But we won't go into that too much because it's a horrendous topic. That's why you see the liars kind of around what they've been doing for the last number of years. So you want to be aware of it. And then awareness is, can you stomach what it is you're becoming aware of? Can you stomach it? Can you grok it? Like, oh man, I'm an addict. That's what I had to do. I wrote a blog about it. You can see it on my blogger site on my website. It's called Confessions of an Ex-Carboholic. And I wrote it for all of you. I wrote it about 20 years ago as I was coming out of carbohydrate addiction. It took me a decade. I'm a Taurus. I love my indulgences. I knew I needed to be off flour products and wheat and granola and Toll House chocolate chip cookies and all that. And it took me a decade. I was stubborn. Those bugs, they weren't giving up easy, And then I went to do the parasite work, and I did over 1,000 enemas and stuff up the rear end and stuff down this end and stuff on the skin. And very few people have done the work I've done, but it made me who I am. My allergies are gone. My gut lining's healed. Tongue, no coating on my tongue, which isn't bad. It needs to be a little coat, but I don't have a big mucus layer on my tongue anymore. And so awareness, loving our broken choices, and then moving on to make the next higher decision is how it works. So chronometer, then you can start to look at, okay, I'm eating too many carbohydrates. And what you want to do is when you get those cravings, like the oral fixation, what you want to do is you just want to have celery around. I have carrot, celery, radishes because they're usually always available and they don't need to be refrigerated. You can carry them around in a little plastic baggie all day. And when you get that oral fixation to crunch on something, have a carrot or a celery or a radish. In the summer, you can have cucumbers and squashes and whatnot, but that's the best way to kind of manage the oral fixation is give your chewing, because chewing releases aggression and tension. So in Jungian psychology, if you're not chewing, you're not doing activity to release your aggression, guess what? It's eating you away from the inside. And that's where we have something about that on a slide here. Come on up. Yes. Stress. So this is from Jack Tips again. I borrowed from his system. So we're going to give Jack Tips full credit, sclerology teacher. So stress is inevitable, folks. Stress is inevitable. Suffering is optional. As my spiritual teacher said 20 plus years ago, pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. So I've been able to reduce mine and other people's pain by telling people, understand the story about your pain, understand the story about your stress, and you can reduce it by not believing the story you're telling yourself. I've had a lot of injuries and I've heard a lot of stories. Oh, I'm never going to walk again when I hurt my foot. Oh, I'm never going to use my shoulder again when I tore my rotator cuff. Doctor's story when I broke my neck 36 years ago. You're never going to surf again. Don't believe the stories you're telling yourself, and your suffering can go down by 90 to 95%. Go into your breath. When you're believing a story, go into breathing in 6 count inhale and 6 count exhale. That's a harmonized breath. 6-second inhale, 6-second exhale. It's very hypnotic, and then the mind can kind of let go. So that's how we get through stress. If you're not managing your stress well, then you're going to be in fight or flight, and you're not going to be able to digest food. Let me repeat. If you're in fight or flight, you are not going to digest food, because the sympathetic nervous system's job is to run from the saber-toothed tiger. The parasympathetic nervous system is the digestion part. So if you're stressed when you're eating and you're watching a fear-based movie like Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, not good. If you're eating when you're driving, not good. If you're eating standing up, not good. Because you're not processing the food well. And if you don't digest food well, the waste stream builds up. What did I just say? Rot attracts microbes. So you're better off eating smaller meals more often than these giant meals once or twice a day, because your body can't digest all the food. That's why people get sugar cravings at the end of a meal, because the bugs know that they're not going to get what they want unless you overeat. Let me repeat that. The bugs down there know they're not going to get what they want unless you overeat and produce a waste stream of rot that they can process. Very insidious. See, adapt or die. The vital force is what makes digestion. And we can measure that in the eye. The vital force line, which is a practical line that anybody can look at. Let me just do it here real quick. It's that if your sclera, or the white part of your eye, is a clock, then I'll do a quick whiteboard to show you that anybody can do this and see how well they're digesting very quickly. So forgive my terrible drawing skills also. I'm not a good artist. So this will be an eyeball. Oh, not bad. And then let's do maybe green for the iris. So here's the iris. That's brown, okay. So what we're talking about is the white of the eye, not the iris. It's a separate study. So the vital force lines in the left and the right eye. Can I copy that? Oh, I can copy that. Nope. Here, let me just do a tiny version on the other side here. So this is the other eye. I'm sorry, it's not to scale, but let's do part of it. Okay. So there's a left and a right eye, and the nose is here. So at 12 o'clock, which is here, you'll see a line. We'll do that in red. So the longer this line is here and the closer to the iris it is, the more your vital force isn't being made into stomach acid. At 6 o'clock is the other one. The line will be straight, it'll be squiggly, it'll be a tree like that, or it'll be a zigzag. Those all mean different things, but they will be on each eye at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And guess what? Each of those 4 zones corresponds to a part of the stomach in the white of the eye. So if you have all 4, you're certainly not digesting protein and minerals well. 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the white of the eye. What you do is you pull your eyes down and you look up and you take a photograph, and then you pull your eyelids up and you look down and you take a photograph like I showed you. And that'll show you, because these red lines in the eyes and the sclera, they start in the back of the eyeball by the optic nerve. And what you see is a journey all the way to the front that you see. But if those lines are appearing, then there's a bunch more behind them, behind the eyelids, back by the optic nerve. So the eye is sort of a fractal of the whole body. The tongue is, the hands are. Everybody knows this. We just haven't been trained on how to use the tools properly. Get back to this slideshow. Oh, wrong one. I'm going to finish in about 5 minutes. If anybody has questions, we'll do 10 minutes of just general Q&A. All right. Oh yeah, Vital Force uses many tools. So temperature is one, like a fever. Bowel changes is another tool the Vital Force uses to manage water balance. So fever, diarrhea, vomiting or nausea, perspiration, sweating, and congestion, inflammation, encapsulation, whatnot. So these are the ways the body compensates for stress when it doesn't get what it needs or there's a severe imbalance. The most important way to restore yourself, you have to sleep and rest. If you don't sleep well, then lie down and don't do anything. That can be very helpful. Even if you don't sleep, just lie down and do nothing and don't move a whole lot, and that will restore some of your broken yin. Cravings and thirst are a definite way that our body uses energy to manage itself. And I think that this is a great slide here. This is Jack Tips. He has a great sense of humor. Stress, perceived or imagined, see as a survival response. To some individuals under stress, these two dolphins may appear to be different. He's trying to be funny. A cow and a dolphin. So this is a very bad image, but what you're seeing here is there's an optimal amount of stress at the top of the hill. That's called eustress, EU. You need a certain amount of stress to poke and prod you. And if you have too little, see, sleep. There's your classic. I grew up in Santa Cruz with the pot smokers. And so the classic unmotivated smoking pot all day is over here on the left. And the person jacked up on 25 cups of coffee is here on the right. So the right in the middle is where we want to be. And this is really a big slide, but I wanted to show you. So stress, see, if you don't get the nutrients you need, then, oh, wow, I need minerals, I need B vitamins, I need magnesium, I need copper, I need iron, and I need oxygen and other elements. Oh shit, my nutrient deficiencies are causing my chooser to make poor choices. And then my insulin cortisol wagon's messed up. And my sodium's depleted. Oh God, then my adrenals go down. And then then my endocrine system's affected. Shit. And then there's a gut-brain connection. So the last slide I'm going to show today, or last thing we're going to look at, is what nutrients does the chooser need? Here we go. So table of health foundations and nutrients. So our chooser needs phosphorus, which is part of the lecithin complex. Our chooser needs silicon, which is in most grain straws like oat straw, wheat straw, horsetail, very high in silica. B vitamins, the best sources of B vitamins are wheat germ, rice bran, bee pollen, liver, organ meats, meats in general. There's other sources, but those are kind of the best. Herbs. I have a blend that I'm on right now, and that's gotu kola, bacopa, gynostemma, rosemary, St. John's wort, ginkgo, and calamus. I'm on that pretty much every day. And those are called rasayanas. A rasayana. And I think I have that document here. Yes. So if you want, you can get access to this. Rasayanas. Here's a mainstream study. And so these herbs that I'm mentioning are on this chart. Telomere lengthening, cell division, see, calamus, turmeric's on there, tulsi's on there, licorice is on there, bacopa, gotu kola, ashwagandha. There's comfrey. There's tons of herbs on this list. And so this study goes down and shows you the things that I'm kind of not going to have time to go into today, how to help your chooser choose more skillfully. Okay, you're going to some Q&A. Coffee enema is great. Melatonin, good, okay. Okay, we got a melatonin question, and we have a coffee enema question. Great. Melatonin, so I'm going to do a little whiteboard for that. Melatonin is good. Generally good results with it, but there's a downside to it. So melatonin, we're going to do a little endocrine chart here. Yeah. let's draw, let's do it. Okay. So here's the head, and excuse my not to scale drawing here. There's the head. And then let's do the thyroid in yellow. And then we'll do the gonads in orange, or the adrenals, excuse me, the adrenals next. And then we'll do the gonads, which we'll do those in black. So ovaries and or testicles. So in the brain here, let's draw some little eyes, this character. Give him a happy face. There we go. Okay. So in the brain, then there's lower brain structures and higher brain structures. Okay. So what I'm going to do right here is point out the lower brain structures, the pituitary. Pituitary. That's the lower brain structure. The next one above it is the hypothalamus. I think you might see where I'm going with this. And then the one above that's the pineal. So it kind of, what you want to do is then realize, like, okay, this is the top of the heap up here. So this signals this, which signals this, which signals this. And there is some of the hypothalamus direct interface also with the adrenals, I believe. So what you're looking at is, so melatonin, this is the mystery of the Sunlight article that I wrote and talked to Susan's group, the Weston Price group, about, is that melatonin, let's save that and then clear. So look at this, you guys. Melanin. What's melanin? That's your skin pigment cells. Oh, sunlight's related, right? Oh, so melanin has a connection with melatonin. Or light. So the problem then is, if you take melatonin too much too long, you're telling your body to stop making it. And melanin, melanocyte stimulating hormone, or MSH, you can look that up. Melanocyte stimulating hormone has a lot of keys into Lyme, Candida, Epstein-Barr, immune problems. What did he just say? That's why you need sunlight. And D3 is a big bag of baloney. Don't take D3, folks. Take it short-term only, in smaller amounts than they say, and get vitamin A rich foods. So melatonin, then, if you need it, it's a sign something's off. Melanin, there's a whole, it means you're not maybe getting enough protein or digesting protein. You can tell that from the basic lab work. So melatonin's fine, but don't consider it. If it's a long-term strategy, no way. I have my clients do a 3-month thing with it, and then we figure out during those 3 months what we need to replace and fix. Just like prednisone or cortisone. Sure, let's use it for 3 months. And then meanwhile, let's figure out why you're inflamed and in pain, but it's not a good long-term strategy. K2, I'll finish that one really quick. You don't need K2, you don't need any K ever at any time. It's in all grass-fed dairy and animal fat, and it's in all greens. So please don't take K. As a nutritionist 30 years in, I've never prescribed K, not even once. Never, ever have I prescribed K. Oh, recommended, sorry, can't use the word prescribed. So no K, you don't need K. You don't need D3 with K and boron. You need sunlight and cod liver oil and natural forms of D that come from sunlight and cod liver oil. Oh, by the way, cod liver oil has high vitamin A also. So D and A have a relationship. A is your sunlight sensor, D is your sunglasses. So when your D3 numbers are low, that has nothing to do with the active form of D. The D3 test, 25-hydroxy D3, is the storage form of D, has nothing to do with the active form. And if it's low, it means you have inflammation. So taking more D3 is like taking aspirin. It will deal with the numbers, you'll have great numbers, but it won't correct the inflammation. So if your D3 is below 30, you have inflammation, and taking D3 isn't correcting the problem. Taking radiated sheep fat is not the answer. to an inflammatory lifestyle. But that's what they want to sell you is the pill. Well, take this one pill and your Ds will go up. Oh, great, you got great looking numbers now, but your health isn't any better. Shut up. All right, great. And K2 is part of that. Then coffee enemas, what do we have here? Coffee enemas also help coffee enemas are, well, coffee is a stimulant. So when you do it up the rear end, there can be euphoria. Some people get stimulated. I go into bliss. Like if I have a quart of coffee in my colon, I'll actually go into bliss. And so yeah, it does make me in a parasympathetic mode, but it does accelerate heart rate and it is a stimulant. So you need to be careful with any statement that it's parasympathetic. No, it's not. In some people it might. And then it does stimulate these portal veins. And so, like I said, all your intestines have these veins that go back up to the liver right here. And what the coffee enema does is it dissolves the sludge in the pipes going back to the liver. And we all know if your pipe is supposed to be this big and you got waste lining it, then you're not going to get fluid through it as fast as if it's supposed to be this big, but it's only this big because of congestion. So there's a lot of sludge in the portal veins, just a lot of sludge in the portal veins. And so the coffee enema's main benefit is a solvent, a dissolver. It also causes the intestines to get a little spastic, and that shakes off the crud. And then there's this other science thing about palmitic acid in the coffee that increases liver detox by tenfold. And I can't find a lot of evidence of the science of that, but if somebody has it, I'd love to have it myself. So you have to have vitality. I have a talk on Rumble you might want to look at. It just came out a couple of days ago that vitality is everything. So if we're going to do fasting and cleansing therapies and you have low vitality, you've got to get your vitality back before you cleanse because tired cells won't detox. Tired bodies won't detox. So you have to get your vitality up before you go into a heavy fasting protocol, unless you're fasting and resting. If you're going to do a 3-day fast and you're lying around in bed, great. 3-day fast out there in Silicon Valley working, not good. Okay, magnesium supplementation. Yes. So the best form of magnesium on the planet, hands down, are green juices. What do you say? Best magnesium on the planet is green juices. Chlorophyll and hemoglobin are identical. Hemoglobin has iron at the center of the blood cell. Plants have magnesium at the center in place of iron. So Keith, that's the single best easy source, fresh green juices. Yeah, dried greens not as good, but still good, like green powders. And then the next best is the ocean water form of magnesium, or the chloride form. And I use Premier Research Labs pH minerals for that, very inexpensive. So that's the chloride form of magnesium. And then all other forms of magnesium are ligand, L-A-G-I-N-D, or man-made. And I use the standard process magnesium lactate. So that's lactic acid from fermented beets. It's standard process bound to magnesium. Very good product, but it's low dose. I use the malate from Jigsaw Health. This is all available on my Fullscript account. If you go to my website, you can buy this stuff on my Fullscript account right off my website. So magnesium malate from Jigsaw Health, get the bee-free one because the bees are synthetic coal mining waste. Get the bee-free one, and that's a high-dose magnesium malate. All magnesiums in these forms are okay except citrate. Do not use magnesium citrate. It causes oxygen and iron to go out of balance. So you don't want to do that. This is the root cause protocol. Morley Robbins has the proof. I have it all myself, the proof for it. So please, you want to make sure your copper zinc balance is correct. Copper is not something you should demonize. Copper and magnesium, according to Morley, are the two most important mineral elements in the body. Did anyone during the C19 talk about copper and magnesium? No. Ascorbic acid, zinc, and D3 all block copper and magnesium metabolism. So please learn from somebody else. Let's see, fresh frozen. Yeah, flash frozen, dried, it's all good. You want stuff as fresh as possible, but if you want good magnesium, just think greens. Think you could get the purified ocean water form, which is the chloride form. And then lactate, glycinate, and malate are my preferred. But any magnesium's all right as long as it's not citrate, and that's calm. I hate to pick on calm, but it's a citrate form. And citric acid made synthetically is a big problem versus citric acid in an orange. I'm actually a nice guy. I just kind of strong personality, that's all. Skin problems, great. So I have a paper, we did exploration of this. Thanks, Keith. So in the B vitamin deficiencies, they have all these old keywords. And so niacin was considered part of pellagra, and there were the 3 Ds of pellagra: dermatitis or skin issues, dementia or mind issues, and diarrhea or bowel issues. So certain B vitamin deficiencies tied in with skin problems. If they have a mind that's messed up and a gut that's messed up, you nailed it. And niacin, even synthetic niacin, is a good place to start in that case. You want to look at the tongue. If there's a leaky gut, there's usually a skin problem. Then there's the drainage thing. And so if you get your eyes analyzed and your lab work in your tongue, then Keith, that would tell me more context about the nature of the psoriasis, because I don't treat symptoms, I treat people with symptoms. So what's the context behind the psoriasis? And generally psoriasis in skin cases, what was that acupuncture dude? He's here in the Bay Area. He had the triangle of the gut, skin, brain axis is how he put it. That local acupuncturist, I forget, I want to give him credit, but I can't remember his name. So it was the gut, skin, brain axis. So when your nerves are getting constant bombardment, skin issues, almost mold in the home, mold certain. So there's a lot of things to look at, Keith. And so I would say, yeah, come and get just a brief. Best way to contact consult. Well, let's screen share for a second here. My website's set up to be, I get shadow banned because I'm telling the truth. But my website's very easy to find. I even got the certificate that makes, oh, your scammers are waiting for you. So this is my website, and look at how easy it is. Schedule an appointment, upper right corner. That's how easy it is to come see me. But if you want more, then my website's kind of loaded, and I have a Google Drive right here that has stuff like this. See, a whole set of papers on the chooser. And I'll finish with this just to show you. Crystallization of thought. Thoughts crystallize inside us as joint pain and whatnot. We don't even realize it. There's that pineal thing again. Crystallization of thought. Reaction, rear brain stuff, choice, forebrain. This was a community dinner talk, so please come to my community dinners. But for getting a hold of me, it's fairly easy. Go to the website, and you can go to who we are, who the team is. And if I'm not right for somebody, I have a team of about 4 or 5 people that personality-wise, that's a good way. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Rumble. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok. I'm on everything, Instagram. But I post mainly on my Health Alchemy Nutrition page on Facebook. I post on Rumble very regularly. I stopped posting on YouTube because I got too many strikes. They were definitely trying to take me down. Leg cramp, okay. Leg cramp, great. So Richard.
So I just unmuted myself. Is that all right?
Yes, that's great. That's wonderful.
So I have a standing workstation. I stand all day at the computer when I'm working, which is most days. And I have big leg muscles from years of walking, hiking, biking, all sorts of stuff. And I get leg cramps sometimes at night. And they're gnarly. They'll like drop you to your knees, go to the hospital, get Demerol. I'm not doing that, but I know other people that have done that. And I'm looking for I have bad words. What do how do I stop this? Because I don't want to sit down because I think that's not great. And reduce those leg cramps.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a simple, if you want to be scientific about it, I'll just give you a couple of things. And then if those work, then come back to me and we'll go to the next step. So you have to figure out, this could be, in my world, I'll have 7, 8, or 9 questions, Richard, to follow this up. Okay, Betsy, I'll give it right with you. So the first question is, okay, when are they occurring? So they occur when you're lying down at night. They don't happen during the day when you're standing?
They don't happen at all when I'm standing. Sometimes they happen at night when I'm laying in bed and it could be as simple as my big toe getting caught on a sheet. Or it's that
And then
kind
goes
of,
into spasm.
and then it'll just go into spasm. And it usually starts out on the inner thighs because those are my largest muscles. And
Okay.
or sometimes it can happen as I'm getting out of bed as my feet touch the ground.
So your big toe and your inner thigh share 3 meridians: liver, spleen, kidney meridian.
Hmm.
Your main yin organs. It's worth looking at the health of those. And the channel goes up from the inner thighs up through the center of the body, kind of like this, and into the organs. So, but the pH is the big issue, Richard. If it's worse when you're lying down, then you're not, when you go into a rest mode, the body goes into an alkaline pH, and that's where you have nutrient lockout. So first of all, get yourself the magnesium that I mentioned, the malate form, you can high dose that, and you want 900 milligrams a day, which is about 7 of those pills. So the way you do that, you take 2 when you wake up, 2 before bed, and 1 with each of 3 meals. You don't have to take it with food. You don't have to not take it with food. So it's very easy to get a high dose in. And you need magnesium. You got to get that much and do that for 3 months. Then you'll need a calcium source because that's only a magnesium product. You need a little bit of calcium. And I prefer the standard process ionized calcium, which is lactate. It's a very easily processed calcium that really, I mean, you can't believe how much it works. So you get a small bottle of the calcium lactate, and you might only need a tiny bit of calcium to match the magnesium. This calcium magnesium ratio 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. No, you don't even need that much calcium because we're getting it in bone broth and other things. This ionized form, though, literally, where is it? I have this drink right here, and I put in 1/8 of a teaspoon of the calcium powder, and then the Polarmin's magnesium, the liquid magnesium. So you'll need those 2 minerals minimum, okay? Then the last thing to do is before you go to bed and when you wake up and with every meal, have a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a little 2-ounce shot glass.
Okay.
So a tablespoon is 1/2 of an ounce. So add, 4 times more water, 2 ounces, tablespoon of apple cider vinegar when you wake up, tablespoon of apple cider, partway through a meal, and a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar before you lay down. And then you can contact me, and if that starts working, then we'll go to the next step. But that should alleviate a lot of your problem.
That would be stupendous. Thank you.
And it's cheap.
Yeah, I like
That's
all
a
of that.
cheap solution.
Yeah, thank you.
Betsy.
You're welcome.
I
Betsy.
have a lot of friends that are in remission from breast cancer or have had, it in the past, and they're trying to do like root cause things to prevent occurrences. Do you have such a general protocol or advice for people in that circumstance?
Thank you, Betsy. Yeah, my whole life has been a study of the feminine and of women. So much so I disowned my masculine side as a young man and then had to reclaim it. So, Betsy, I have probably a couple hundred breast cancer cases since the mid-90s. And here's the psychology of the breast cancer lady. She's given away everything to everyone else, and then she's a shriveled raisin and hasn't kept enough for herself. And a lot of women don't realize this until the empty nest comes. And there's that transition from mom identity to the person again. And a lot of women die when the kids leave home. Why do you think, Betsy? A lot of women die of breast cancer when the kids leave home.
Yeah.
So getting out of the identity of mother is imperative for these women. You must do the psychology work. If they don't do the psychology work, the nutrition and all the other therapies won't work. I'm telling you, because I have a lot of women die that poo-pooed me saying this, and now they're all dead, all of them.
Right. But if
Every
you
single
transfer that and you're contributing to the community in some way, and you're dealing with your, you have a passion, that you're dealing, that you're, So if you're dealing with that and you're finding passion in your life, I think, isn't that a substitute?
I'll give you an example. I had this woman who had pancreatic cancer, actually, which is another nurturing organ. If you think uterus, ovarian, and breast cancer and pancreatic cancer, they're all the nurturing organs. And so the clue is they've given all their nurturing energy to everybody else and haven't kept enough for themselves. So the passion's a good one. Yes, it's a personal passion, but this lady, this cancer patient, stage 4, I have a couple of stage 4 pancreas cancer patients that lived well beyond their medical baloney. And this woman healed because she was a professional piano player as a young woman. She met her husband, had 2 kids. And when I met her, she had stage 4 pancreas cancer, and she was still cooking 1 meal for her husband, 1 meal for her bratty kids, and 1 meal for herself. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with your family? You're dying of cancer and they won't make their own food. So it's the shriveled raisin effect. She's still giving it away. She's dying and she's still giving, right? I mean, just bless your hearts, you ladies. And then I tell her, I go, you have to find that piano passion back in your life. I don't have time. I can't do that. I don't have time. I'm like, your life depends on it. So what she did was 5 to 6 a.m. before everyone was awake yet. She went out to her little studio that the piano was in, and she played piano every day since for an hour every morning from 5 to 6 a.m. And I believe she's alive because of that. Her passion was to just disappear into the piano, right?
Right.
Like for me, when Craig ceases to exist up here talking, there's peace. There's no
Right.
Craig.
So I know a lot of people who are good at self-care and have passion. So I think, some people are already doing that. And I know the emotional piece is there and the spiritual piece is there. And what else do you think is important?
Oh, this is wonderful. Betsy, you're doing some good observation here. This is great observation of you're right. So if you got your self-care down, so you think, and you have your food down, all that whatnot. So I'm going to tell people right now that.
Oh, wait, can I ask you a question? There's so much controversy on diet for cancer. Some people are like keto and some people are vegan. Do you have a preference on that? It's so confusing.
It's personal. It's weather-based, it's goals-based, always context.
Okay.
No, I've made it clear at the beginning, I don't have an ideology to fit people into, because I don't want to square a peg in a round hole. So if you're a blood type O, Northern European ancestors, you take my metabolic typing test and you have a lot of C answers, you are not going to do well on a vegan cancer diet. You just won't. You'll need raw meat and green juices and coffee enemas. Then the other side, if you're a blood type A with equator hot weather ancestors, and you have a lot of A answers on the metabolic typing test, then you're a vegan cancer diet, no doubt. So everyone's different, and that's what's wrong, is there's no formula. I mean, there are formulas, plural, but there's not one formula for everyone. And that's what medicine's been trying to force us into, is the one, right? The formula. You have cancer, you do this. And it doesn't work that way. Medicine is an art and a science. Oh, Richard asked. 1 second. So Betsy, does that answer your question? Oh, back to the other thing to look at is, what do they value?
A major protocol.
We go back to, what else do they value? Are their health values, in fact, high value health? The Webster's Dictionary definition of health is an absence of symptoms. So to be honest, Betsy, most people have their health values are about this big. And then I was taught by teachers whose health values are this big. When people come to me and they say they're eating healthy and they have cancer, what do I tell them? No, you're not eating healthy by the higher standards of reality. You're eating healthy by the pathetic low standards of American health. So we have to change our definition of what health is, Betsy, because most of us are in this low standard health. And it's really important to understand that. Like, I'm trying to be an example of a higher level health. I'm not perfect. I have lots of flaws, and I'm not afraid to share them. The difference between me and most people is I've got my dysfunction, but I'm not afraid to stand up here and you can ask me anything and I won't be afraid to answer, because I got nothing to hide, nothing I've done that's so shameful I couldn't share. I'm here to be an example of a transparent health professional. And that's what's missing in people is, oh, I eat healthy. No, don't assume you are. It's the assumption that's the problem.
Right. But last question, because I know you need to get on to other people with this. Are there any supplements that you say are super critical?
In today's world, very good. And if you notice that guy's nose, when you look at his nose had all those purple blood vessels that you see on the alcoholic also. You know, the purple blood vessels on the nose. That's bioflavonoid deficiency. In Chinese medicine, that's called, they can't keep the blood in the vessels. The spleen can't hold the blood in the vessels. And that's a certain bioflavonoid deficiency. So, Keith, Keith, I want to connect with you. I think I have a paper of yours from years ago. I'd like to talk with you about it, about the immune system. I think it's the same guy. But anyways, Betsy, let's move on to, there was one other question here. Oh, Richard. I haven't been following what the Gershon, I think it's the daughter down in Tijuana, is keeping the clinic going. And so I haven't been following what their current last 4 or 5 years, what they're doing. But I know the Optimal Health Institute in San Diego, they're really big into coffee enemas and green juices, like green juice in every orifice kind of thing. So I use coffee enemas. I just did one the other day, and I went into bliss and changed my whole day for the better. And then the one before that, a month earlier, it made my day worse. I never know what I'm going to get. If you feel worse after starting to cleanse, it means you've peeled off a layer and there's another more toxic layer coming up. And one cleanse in your lifetime ain't going to do it, folks. You got to do a cleanse every season for a number of years like I did to get the stuff moving and out. You need a program with a plan. That's what I do. Here's your year plan, 4 90-day plans. That's what makes me different than others is, here's the plan. Oh, the plan's not quite working. Let's modify a little bit. Do the medical professionals do that when they give you, like I had a client with ulcerative colitis and their medical solution for her ulcerative colitis was to have a Lialda butt plug. It was literally, you know, stick the butt plug up there and the prednisone goes in the colon, and that's their long-term solution is prednisone forever. Just push the button, done. That's not healing. That is not healing. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you. If anybody wants to stick around, I could end with Khalil Gibran's little piece on love. Anybody want to hear that to close off with? Susan, you want to hear Khalil Gibran piece on love to end? Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Susan. My teacher, Adyashanti, has this wonderful saying, every love sheds a tear. Every love sheds a tear. It's just so beautifully put. So I will go, this book, Khalil Gibran, The Prophet, was on my mom's bedside most of my life. And I was always fascinated with, what is this book? This weird looking book on my mom's bedside. There we go. Please don't read it, just listen to me. It's a little long, but we're going to end on this, and this will be our closing ceremony and send us off with God. On love. And he raised his head and looked upon the people, and there fell a stillness upon them. And with a great voice, he said, when love beckons you, follow him. You can say her, that's fine, him or her. Though his or her ways are hard and steep, and when his wings enfold you, yield to him. Though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you, and when he speaks to you, believe in him. Though his voice may shatter your dreams as a north wind lays waste to the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall he or she crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so he is for your pruning. Even he ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun. So shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn, he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness and kneads you till you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. And all these things love shall do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. But if in your heart you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, then it is better for you to cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor into the seasonless world where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and you shall cry, but not all of your tears. Love gives not but itself, and takes not but from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed, for love is sufficient unto love. When you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires. To melt like a running brook that sings its melody to the night. To know the pain of too much tenderness. To be wounded in your own understanding of love. And to bleed willingly and joyfully. To wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving. To rest at the noon hour and meditate love ecstasy. To return home in the evening with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in our heart and a song of praise upon our lips. That's love. Beautiful.
Yes, that's quite.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. Is that peace is why I sit here with you people. I'm giving back all the great masters that gave to me and kept me alive. I shouldn't be alive. So I'm in give back mode to help you come through your challenges because of the great kindness that was given to me. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your love and your compassion. And we're all better for it. So you can come back anytime and share your love, wisdom, and passion.